Good morning, children.
Good morning.
We had completed the chapter microbes in human welfare in the previous class, and today you have a test paper on the topic on the chapter human health and diseases. Am I right? So next period, second period, we will have the test paper. So this period, let us begin with Mehek's seminar. I think only Mehek is remaining now for the seminar. Anybody else who did not take last day? No. Okay. Mehek is there. No, shall we start, Mehek?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Just begin.
Good morning, everybody. Today, myself, Mehek Shahul, is going to talk about how the drug or alcohol intake will cause harm to your body and you. To start with, let's talk about some signs and symptoms of drug and alcohol abuse. Physical warnings may include changes in sleeping and eating habits, which may also result in fluctuations in weight, appetite, etc. The individual may lack interest in personal hygiene. Delayed reflex, which shows why we are asked to not drive vehicles after drinking. Bloodshot eyes, as you can see in the picture beside. Fatigue, facial and body acne. Now, the behavioral changes include drop in academics by bringing changes in brain activities such as memory and attention, withdrawal and isolation from friends, which may or may not be due to embarrassment or even depression. They grow to like being alone most of the time. Loss of interest in hobbies, which is one of the most evident warning signs. Tendency to steal when they are unable to keep up with the daily intake of drug with their own pocket money. Lack of motivation, secretive behavior, and rebellious behavior against others, individuals, and properties. The psychological changes include depression, mood swings, increased aggressiveness, etc. Some other side effects are enlargement in clitoris in female, masculinization in female, which may also result in excessive hair growth and deepening of voice, and many others. In men, reduced size of testicles, breast enlargement, premature baldness, and enlargement of prostate gland. Behavior that affect the surrounding and people of the abusers are reckless behavior, vandalism, which is the tendency to destroy public or private property, as you see in the picture beside, mental and financial distress to family. Biological effects are liver cirrhosis, kidney dysfunction, damage of nervous system. It may also result in the spread of infectious diseases such as AIDS and hepatitis B when the same syringes are shared among the abusers. Loss of sexual drive, necrospermia, respiratory failure, heart failure, cerebral hemorrhage, reduced sperm production in men. Extreme intake can also result in overdosing, coma, and even death. This shows some side effects of nicotine in each part of the body. And these are the side effects of alcohol. Some of the well-known sports people are known for the intake of drug to enhance their performance. They use narcotic analgesics, anabolic steroids, diuretics, and certain other hormones to increase muscle strength to excel in the athletic event. I noticed that even after researches and speaking to some of my close mates, that there are still many unanswered questions. As mentioned, these are my personal opinions, and please do correct me if you think I'm wrong. I put a thought to the methods that can be suggested to limit the drug intake, especially by adolescents. First steps include good parenting, a parent child relation in which the child can freely speak with the parent without a second thought. When we were younger, we would go to our parents for each and everything, from falling on the ground to any other bigger difficulties, asking for help, seeking for attention, and whatnot. Why don't we do that as adolescents? What is stopping us from speaking up when things get harder to deal with? Why do we have trust issues? May I ask, even now, how many of you discuss everything happening in your life with either of your parents? Monitoring comes under parenting as well. To know the whereabouts of your child, a phone call is more than enough. The simple steps can mark a bigger difference. Schools should introduce separate subjects upon drug and alcohol abuse and even parenting from lower grades. Little by little, educating them, teaching them the after effects, and letting them know why they are asked to say no to drugs. As we have seen and heard from Gayatri, showing scenes of movies showing scenes of intake of drug with the awareness in the bottom of the screen, I think that is not enough. They are still promoting the act. We have also many teenagers posting status or stories of these actors speaking a savage dialogue after the intake of drug or alcohol, showing how much it influences. The recent incident of Ronaldo causing losses of millions for the Coca-Cola company by asking the viewers to drink water to be healthy. This can be considered the good way of influencing. Some questioning I would like to ask are listed below. If you have an answer, please feel free to interrupt. We all are aware that most drug supplies happen in illegal drug selling shops. Why are we not acting against it, though we know drug supplies happen even now? Third one, not all but majority of the parents or teachers pressurize the child even more once they admit doing drugs. Punishing and ignorance is not the right way. They would also suggest the other students to not hang out with them and get into bad companies. Why don't we first ask if the abuser needs professional help in getting over the addiction? Also, if we think about it, our teachers have been educating us on these matters. But even after knowing certain after effects, certain adolescents may get into doing drugs. Why is that so? We should be spreading the awareness and effects of these with the whole batch rather than just discussing it with the science batch alone. Counseling and educating should be done the right way. As being privileged adolescents, we are not at the burden of taking the responsibility of a family or its financial stability. Therefore, I feel that many adolescents get into doing drugs due to either of the pressures by the society to excel in whatever you do, from family to behave in an ideal and expected way, and from schools to perform well in academics. A question to adults: can you really not limit the stress? That's it for now. Thank you.
So if I ask you to take initiative, I don't think I'll get the name soon. So I'll call out the names. Okay, Anna has already taken. Donna, Evelyn, Lydia, Malavika. Malavika has not taken, no?
I
Malavika,
have taken, ma'am.
you have taken. So Donna, Evelyn, Lydia, Michael. Okay. And I think one more name I can, but that is very small chapter. No, that's enough. Donna, Evelyn, Lydia, and Michael.
Ma'am,
Heard? Yes.
ma'am, I had already selected a topic.
Okay, okay. You had sent me the message?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay. I'll include your name also. So send me the topic. Punya, I think you have already sent, no? Topic is?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so others can send me the topic. Hope others got the name. Okay, Lydia is joining now. Just inform her, okay? Or towards the end, I will call out the names again. So without much delay, let us proceed to the next chapter. Now we are going to learn a chapter from the unit Ecology. 4 chapters are included there. Last year, 2 of the chapters from this unit were deleted, and this year, presently we will be following the deleted syllabus, and as per CBSE, they'll be publishing their revised syllabus in the month of July, this month. So we'll wait for that, but by then we'll be completing 2 chapters as per the deleted syllabus. Those deleted chapters we won't be beginning with, and the chapters which were deleted last year were biodiversity and conservation, ecosystem and environmental issues. Ecosystem, chapter 14 and chapter 16, environmental issues were deleted. We don't know. This year, same chapters will get deleted or these chapters will be included. No idea. We'll wait for the circular. Okay. And after that, we'll decide whether to take those chapters or not. But anyhow, we are going to begin with the first chapter, organisms and populations. And children, yes, we all know the world where we are living is highly complex and diverse. And there are different levels of biological organization. Like to begin with, Macromolecules. Macromolecules will combine and form cells, or cells are made up of these macromolecules. A group of cells will form tissue. A group of tissues will form organs, then organ systems. Several such organ systems will make up an organism, and these organisms will form population. That is the next level. Organisms, they will form population, and several populations will form community. Communities will form ecosystem, and ecosystem will finally form biomes. So there are different levels of biological organization starting from macromolecules to biomes. I'll repeat the different levels once again. Macromolecules that make up a cell, a group of cells form a tissue, a group of tissues form an organ, a group of organs form an organ system. Several such organ systems make up an organism, and a group of organisms will form population. Then comes community, ecosystem, and finally biomes. And ecology. Have you heard about ecology, children? Ecology, you can say it's a study of ecosystems, or to be specific, you can say it is a study of the interactions that exist among the organisms and also between the organisms and its physical environment. You know that in an ecosystem, in class 10, you have learned about ecosystem. In an ecosystem, two major components are there. Biotic components and abiotic components. Living factors and non-living factors are present in an ecosystem. And it is very important that the different living components, they interact with each other. There exists some interactions. You know about food chain and all, you have learned about all that. Food chain, food web. So there exists some interactions among the different living organisms. And at the same time, these organisms will interact with the abiotic components. For their existence or for the survival of these biotic components, abiotic components are very, very essential. So they continuously interact with the other biotic components as well as with the physical environment or abiotic components. For example, light, water, soil, all these are very, very important for an organism to survive. So ecology deals with the interrelationships existing among different living organisms and also between an organism and its abiotic environment or physical environment that comprises of, that includes the different non-living factors. Understood? I'll repeat once again. Ecology deals with the interactions existing among, or else you can say it is a study of the interactions existing among organisms and also between an organism and its physical environment. Without these interactions, a living organism cannot survive. And ecology is mainly concerned with 4 levels of biological organization. I gave you the different levels. The different levels of biological organization I have listed a few minutes back, starting from macromolecules till biomes. So out of these different levels of biological organization, ecology is mainly concerned with 4 levels of biological organization. So those include organisms, populations, communities, and biomes. Organisms, populations, communities, and biomes. Out of these 4 levels of biological organization, in this chapter, you will be learning about organisms and populations. As the name of the chapter suggests, or as it is the name of the chapter, we are going to learn about organisms and populations in detail. Okay? So, let me show the slide. Organisms and populations, chapter 13. Ecology is a study of interactions among organisms and also between the organisms and its physical environment. These interactions are very important for an organism to survive. In the absence of abiotic components, Even though these factors are non-living, in their absence, living organisms will not be able to survive. We need air to breathe, we need water to drink. So without all the soil, light, temperature, all these are important for the living organisms to survive. Ecology is basically concerned with 4 levels of biological organization. Out of the different levels of biological organization that I listed, these 4 levels of biological organization are important from the point of view of ecology. Okay, ecology is basically concerned with 4 levels of biological organization: organisms, populations, communities, and biomes. Out of these 4, in this chapter, you're going to learn in detail about organisms and populations. Now, let's see what is meant by physiological ecology. Physiological ecology is the ecology at organismic level. So when at the organismic level ecology is studied, then you call it as physiological ecology. And this explains how different organisms are adapted to their environment. These adaptations are also very, very important. If an organism cannot adapt to the habitat, cannot adapt to the abiotic components of the habitat where they are surviving or where they are living, they won't be able to reproduce or survive. Gradually they will get destroyed or they will die. That is why you know that some organisms are found only in specific habitats. If you change the habitat, like polar bear cannot live in hot and humid climate because their adaptation, so they are adapted to survive in ice cold areas or polar regions. So they have developed some adaptations which will help them to survive there. Similarly, a camel is adapted to survive in a desert. They have some adaptations which help them to reproduce and survive better in such conditions. Once again, physiological ecology is the ecology at the organismic level, and it deals with or it explains how different organisms are adapted to their environment. And these adaptations are necessary for their survival as well as for their reproduction. Only then their race will be continued. Only then, otherwise what happens is reproduction is also very important. If they are unable to reproduce, they cannot continue their race. So these adaptations are only if they are adapted to the environmental factors prevailing in a particular region, they'll be able to survive. If not, if they cannot adapt, they'll get destroyed. The rotation of the earth around the sun and the tilt of its axis cause annual variations in intensity and duration of temperature, causing seasons. This you had been learning from lower classes. Rotation of the earth will cause day and night revolution, or rotation of the earth around the sun and its tilt. We assume that there is an imaginary axis for the earth and it is slightly tilted, and all these, the tilt of its axis and the rotation of the earth around the sun bring about changes, annual variation. So annually there exists some variations in the intensity of temperature as well as the duration of temperature, which decides different seasons. You know, there are different seasons, and these seasons are caused by the rotation of the earth around the sun and its slightly tilted axis. Together it will bring about changes in the temperature as well as changes in the duration and intensity of temperature, leading to the formation of seasons. So that this example itself indicates how much we are dependent on these abiotic factors. Once again, physiological ecology deals with or explains how different organisms get adapted to their environment in terms of survival and reproduction. And seasons are caused by the rotation of the earth around its axis and the tilt of its axis, which will bring about annual variations in the intensity as well as the duration of temperature. And here you can see the different biomes. And this figure is very important because it can be asked, it had been asked earlier without labeling. This graph used to be given and you have to identify the biome. And there are different biomes. And before that, children, biome means it's a large, naturally occurring community. Large, naturally occurring community of plants and animals or flora and fauna occupying a natural habitat. Say, for example, a forest, desert, grassland, all these are examples for biomes. A large, naturally occurring community of flora and fauna or plants and animals. Flora stands for plants, fauna for animals. Occupying a natural habitat, a large, naturally occurring community of flora and fauna occupying a natural habitat. And here you can see mean temperature and mean annual precipitation. Mean annual temperature in degrees Celsius is plotted on one axis, and on the other axis mean annual precipitation in centimeters are marked. Okay, and you can find, based on the temperature and the annual precipitation, several biomes are there. Arctic and alpine tundra biome, hope you know about it. Maybe in geography you had learned in lower classes. What is special about tundra? It is the coldest of all biomes. It's a treeless region, and there the ground will be frozen, or else you can say the subsoil will remain frozen. It is the coldest of all biomes, and there you can find small shrubs, then lichens, etc. But trees are absent. It is a treeless Arctic region, very cold, the coldest of all the biomes with the frozen subsoil. And then a coniferous forest, temperate forest, tropical forest, desert, grassland. So there, if you compare, or if you try to plot the temperature and the rainfall in these regions, you will find that it is highly varying. It is different for different biomes. So depending upon the rainfall received or the precipitation received and the temperature annually, you can find different biomes plotted on this graph. So you should know, it is not necessary to learn to draw this graph, but you should be able to identify, like tropical rainforest. So where is the annual precipitation maximum? Where is the temperature highest? All that you should know. So if this graph is given without any labeling, you should be able to identify. So please do learn. Once or twice I've seen in the question papers. Major biomes, desert, rainforest, tundra, etc. are formed due to the variations along with annual variations in precipitation, variations in temperature. Okay, variations in are formed due to these variations in temperature along with the annual variations in precipitation. Precipitation, snowfall, rainfall, all comes under precipitation. Major biomes, or what results in the formation of different biomes. These biomes are formed due to the variations in temperature and due to the variations in precipitation. That you can see from the graph itself. Those are the two deciding factors which are plotted on x-axis and y-axis. So the different biomes are formed because of the changes or variations, annual variations in temperature and rainfall. Regional and local variations within a biome lead to the formation of different habitats. So within a biome is a large area. So within a biome, you can find different habitats. So those habitats present within a biome are due to regional and local variations. So within a biome, so general characters will remain the same, but in spite of that, there can be some local or regional variations. So that will lead to the result in the formation of different habitats within a biome. Hope you are remembering the definition what I told you about biome. It's a large naturally occurring community of flora and fauna occupying a natural habitat. Even within a forest, you can find different habitats. There can be ponds there can be river there. Okay, grassland can be there. Not grassland, grass covered area can be there where more trees are present. So within a particular habitat, within a particular biome, you can find different habitats, aquatic, terrestrial, all these you can find within a particular biome, and that depends upon regional and local variations in these factors. So when there exists some regional and local variations, that can lead to the formation of different habitats. Now moving on to next slide. So here you can see examples for different habitats. Life exists even in extreme and harsh habitats that you already know. When we had learned about the kingdom Monera, you had learned that some of the microorganisms can survive in all the extreme climatic conditions. So you know life can exist even in extreme and harsh climatic conditions. For example, the scorching Rajasthan desert. Scorching means very hot, burning. The sun will be burning over there. So the temperature will be too high. Scorching Rajasthan desert, rain-soaked Meghalaya forest, deep ocean trenches, torrential streams, then polar regions, high mountain tops, thermal springs, stinking or smelly compost pits. Everywhere life exists. In all these extreme climate, it is true that all organisms cannot survive there. That is true. But even there are certain life forms capable of surviving in these habitats. Our intestine. Within our body also there are different microorganisms. That is also, the intestine is also a habitat for different microbes. So in all these extreme climatic conditions, organisms can survive or life can exist. A few organisms, even then you can say life exists in all the extreme climatic conditions. And these organisms are able to survive there because they have some unique adaptations which will help them to survive there. So whatever be the habitat, if an organism need to survive there, then they need some adaptation. So with those adaptations, they'll be thriving well there. They'll be able to reproduce and continue their generation. Life exists even in extreme and harsh climatic conditions. Some of the harsh climatic conditions are listed here. Once again, I'll repeat: scorching Rajasthan desert, rain-soaked Meghalaya forest, deep ocean trenches, torrential streams where water is flowing with great force, polar regions, high mountain tops, thermal springs, hot water springs, stinking or smelling compost pits. Everywhere life exists. And even in our intestine, human intestine is also a habitat for several microbes. The habitat of an organism includes different abiotic components, physico-chemical or abiotic components like water, light, temperature, soil, and biotic components like pathogens, parasites, predators, competitors, etc. of the organisms with which they continuously interact, leading to changes in habitat. Okay. So already I told you in the beginning itself, we learned there exists some interactions among the organisms and between the organisms and its organism and its physical environment. So in a habitat, in the habitat of an organism, wherever they are surviving, in the habitat of an organism, you can find different abiotic and biotic components. The abiotic components include water, light, temperature, soil, etc. Whereas the biotic components include pathogens, parasites, predators, competitors. Like in competition, competitors can be there in terms of nutrient. They might compete with each other for the limited supplies of food, space, then the different nutrients. What else? Sunlight. So all those organisms who compete among themselves for the limited supplies, you can call them as competitors. So pathogens, the disease causing organism, parasite, predators and competitors of the organisms with which they interact constantly. So an organism will be interacting with all these biotic components throughout, and these can lead to changes in the habitat. So as and when all these interactions, continuous interactions with the biotic and abiotic components can result in change in or can bring about some variations in these habitats. And organisms evolve some adaptations through natural selection. Have you heard about natural selection, children? Have you heard about natural selection? At least in evolution you might have learned. Class 10 you had learned about natural selection. Can anybody tell me what is meant by natural selection?
Survival of the fittest.
Yes?
Survival of the fittest.
As a result of natural selection, the fittest one will survive. There exists a struggle for existence, fittest one will survive. So actually the nature selects those organisms with favorable variations or those which can adapt to the environment will survive and reproduce, whereas those which cannot adapt to the environment, they will get destroyed. Or else you can define it as a process in nature where the living organisms will adapt and change in response to the environmental conditions. I'll repeat again, it is a process existing in nature through which organisms, living organisms, they will adapt and change in response to the environmental conditions. And only those who get better adapted, only those organisms who are better adapted to the environment will survive, others will get destroyed. So it is a process existing in nature through which living organisms adapt and change in response to the environmental conditions. Suddenly, if the climatic conditions of a particular habitat is changing, all organisms may not be able to cope up with the change. Only those organisms who can adjust to the changes in the climatic conditions, they will survive. I hope you are remembering the example given in class 10 about bacteria living in temperate waters. Suddenly the temperature of the water got high, it got increased. Majority of the bacteria died, but a few of them who had resistance, who were tolerant to the high temperature, who had temperature tolerance, they survived. So that is the type of example for natural selection. Only those who are getting adapted, they will survive, others will get destroyed. So organisms, they evolve adaptations through natural selection over a period of time to optimize its survival and reproduction in its habitat. But if they cannot manage to change, if they cannot develop such adaptations, they won't be able to continue in that habitat. They'll get destroyed. As and when the climatic conditions or when there arises some changes in the conditions of the habitat where living organisms are surviving, they too need to change. They have to develop some adaptations which will help them to survive better and reproduce. Otherwise, if they cannot manage or if they cannot develop those adaptations, they won't be able to survive, they will get destroyed. So the habitat of an organism includes abiotic and biotic components with which these organisms continuously interact, and these can lead to some variations in the habitats. So according to the changes in the habitat or whenever variations arise in the habitat, organisms should develop some adaptations through natural selection. And if they cannot develop these adaptations, they will not be able to survive. And if they are capable of developing some adaptations, they'll be able to survive better and reproduce. The different abiotic factors include temperature, water, light, and soil. So we'll be learning in detail about these different abiotic factors. 4 major abiotic factors include temperature, water, light, and soil. Okay? Any doubts in what we covered? So the 4 abiotic factors include, many abiotic factors are there. Here in this chapter we'll be learning mainly about 4 of them: light, temperature, water, and soil. We will see how organisms are adapted to these different abiotic factors. So let's have a quick recap of the topics we covered. Rijas, you may start. What is meant by physiological ecology, or else tell me what is ecology? You had a haircut, Rijas?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Ecology is a study of interaction between organisms and between organism and abiotic. It's physical environment.
Environment. Okay. And then what is meant by physiological ecology, Nandana? It explains.
Ecology at the organismic level. It explains how they are adapted to the environment based on their survival and reproductive abilities.
Okay. Okay. Then we learned about different biomes. What is meant by a biome? Vidar, what is meant by a biome?
It's a large natural community of flora and fauna occupying natural habitats.
Okay. Examples? Mehek, examples for biome?
Desert, forest,
Forest. Then which is the coldest biome?
tundra,
Tundra biome with frozen subsoil. No trees are present there. So that graph you should know. You should be familiar with all the biomes marked over there. And what are the criteria? What are the two main factors that decide the formation of biomes? Sania?
Temperature and precipitation.
Annual, mean annual temperature and also
Precipitation.
mean annual precipitation. Okay. Then what else we learned? Lydia, what is the next point that we discussed?
Regional and local variation within a biome lead to the formation of different habitats.
And which are the four major abiotic components or abiotic factors? Naureen?
Temperature, water, light, and soil.
Okay. Our time is 9:20, no? Let me take the attendance. Thank you, children. See you next period.